Play the whole song. Hey, it's time for Thinking Real Estate, starring Jackie Austin this week.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Jackie.
I brought a guest with me today, too.
You did?
I did. Let's see, I don't know, let's see. Should we call you Mini Bill or no?
No.
I brought Jeff Fraunfelger with me, Bill Schlechty's associate attorney, so we can get some information and find out what's going on in leases is what we're going to talk about today. Tenants and landlords and all that kind of fun stuff. So, hi Jeff.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
You're looking all spiffy today. I know you got your haircut this weekend.
Yeah, well, I heard I needed to put my face, get a face for radio.
There you go.
It runs in the family.
Yeah, exactly. Greg was talking about the Twitter thing with the Lions, and I found that pretty funny. Did you see what the Lions had tweeted?
Yeah, I did.
We feel your pain.
Feel your pain. That was a good one.
Oh, Lord.
In fact, that completing the process thing, I think, was invented for the
Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Calvin.
So who do you have tonight, anyway, for the
Buckeyes.
Buckeyes?
Yeah.
I'm
Go Buckeyes.
I'm kind of hoping for the Buckeyes as well.
You know, I never pull for the Buckeyes for anything, but I think I will tonight.
Manny Jimenez will be happy.
That's right. Yes.
There you go. So, all right. Well, let's get on task here because I don't know anything about football, so I feel a little left out.
We can talk about hockey too.
Well, I don't know
there you
hockey either. So, anyway, so you've got lots of research here.
I've got a little bit of put together.
You are, as Laura says, the pit bull when it comes to landlord-tenant stuff. So.
Well, I don't know about pit bull, but you know, there's some interesting things. It's not really as boring of an area of law as some people might find it or think it is. It seems that somebody always has a situation that comes up that involves landlord-tenant issues.
It's got to be always something new.
There surprisingly are new things that come up all the time. It's not always just the non-payment of rent and an eviction, as you might think. And there's some pretty specific statutes out there that need to be followed. Very quickly, though, there have been a couple of updates to the law since last time I was here. I was looking at my notes from last time I was here, and I was...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm so prepared.
They're in crayon.
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't been here in a while.
Exactly. And I know last time we were talking about some provisions to put into a lease. This time I wanted to just make mention that there have been a couple updates as far as reasons to which you might be able to get a summary proceedings. Now the court process to actually evict somebody is called summary proceedings. And there has been now for a 7-day notice you can put out, and I've actually done this one once this past year, where one tenant has been threatened maybe by another tenant within the building, and so you can put a 7-day notice onto the threatening tenant that they need to vacate, and if they don't, if you have a formal police report from the threatened tenant, you can use that as an operation to get into court and have them removed from that. So that's one thing that's been kind of updated. It's found.
Does that happen very often? Or?
I think it probably happens more than we even realize. This particular landlord was on top of knowing about it and let us know. That particular tenant that was threatened had actually called the cops and had gotten a report from Jackson Police Department. So we had all the evidence and put it forth. And we never even had to go to court. Actually, the tenant who had done the threatening had vacated before we needed to get in any further.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they had been a problem tenant all along anyway.
There are probably a lot of landlords out there that don't know that stuff is happening in their apartments and wouldn't know unless somebody told them.
And exactly, so. And that's, again, always, I think the best thing for a landlord is to be to stay in communication with your tenants, really, and I think that's the best way to really keep from having any problems that may arise. I did find another update. Now this has been kicked around in the legislature for about 4 years. What to do when your tenant passes away while they're in the middle of a lease. And I'm noting that actually this has happened to us too with one of our clients. And when it happened, we were kind of wondering why the governor sat on this and pocket vetoed it was House Bill 4263 in 2012, which would have given us an easier opportunity to retake the premises after a tenant had passed away. But in the end, the legislature did come through, and they've updated what's called the anti-lockout statute and have actually come up with a procedure that the landlord should be aware of right now for if this ever happens. I mean, there's several tenants out there, I'm sure, that have no family. They're just, you know, there's nothing you can really do. And what do you do to fix this problem? So this can actually be found in the Revised Judicature Act of MCL 600-2918. And basically it starts out with the premise that your landlord needs to contact their tenant and actually give them an opportunity in writing to provide a contact information of an authorized person that the landlord could contact in the case of an emergency. And if
That's pretty standard, isn't it? No?
actually no, I don't know that too many landlords even do this.
Should be, though.
You would imagine that that would be something. I would always advise somebody, you probably want to have some sort of contact information. But it's specifically for this law, in order to take possession back without opening a probate account or a probate case, this is something that would be the threshold thing to start with, is to give that tenant the chance to give you that contact information. So if current rent is...
My wheels are grinding here on this. Now, okay, let's say you get a 1-year lease. You're 6 months in and you pass away. Are you telling me the landlord can't take possession of the property? How's that working?
Well, if there's stuff in the property, it needs to sort of go through the probate court.
Right.
In order to, and I have to defer to my colleague Rick Mills on something along those lines. Who knows all the probate law really well, but yeah, you got to kind of. This is stuff that belongs to somebody, and now an estate needs to be opened up in order to dispossess that, or to move it on to whoever it may transfer to, or whether, I mean, it's not the landlord's stuff, and so, and it may be valuable, it may not be, and so that's part of the whole.
So, okay, let's, same scenario. This person passes away and there's no relatives, friends, or what happens there? Are you just out of luck? You have to wait for the court?
Right. If current rent is not paid and the owner believes in good faith that the person has been deceased for 18 days, and also make sure that there's no other surviving tenants, clearly, then there's a procedure of, first of all, if they did give you that contact information, the landlord needs to try to contact that person. The landlord's not responsible for that information not being valid, so they give that a chance.
Right.
They place a notice on the door that in 10 days they're going to retake the possession. And then they need to notify a public administrator. I didn't have time to see if Jackson County, if we have public administrators here, or if it's the state public administrator that you have to contact to see if a probate case has been opened for it.
Well, likely the police would be involved, right?
Well, I'm not saying this doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that died in you know, the unit or having
Right.
the police involved that way. I'm just saying if somebody had passed away who was
Right,
party to a lease.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the police don't necessarily have to be involved from what I can tell. And if a probate state hasn't been opened up, then
How are you getting your property back? I guess if you're a landlord.
well,
I mean, it's going to be a period of time, I guess.
yeah, there's a period of time in
Okay.
there. And truly, what you want to do is have your that contact person begin a probate case within 28 days. Is really how the law wants it to be done.
Probate's that can be arduous, can it?
I've never actually practiced in probate law.
But it's that's what we've always heard.
Right.
Right.
It's a long, drawn-out process.
It takes time. So let's.
So it would behoove the landlord to review their lease and their procedure for this with an attorney. That would definitely be a good idea.
Call you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if you're going through this process and it does end up being a long-term process, so say the apartment is out of commission for a couple of months, can the landlord recoup the rent that would have been paid had that person?
Well, in a situation like this, likely there's probably no amount of money at the end of the trail, so I don't think that there's
Well, if there
really
was
be-
money available, would they have the recourse to, do you know?
Yeah, I mean, they could file an action against the
estate,
estate,
okay.
yeah, if there's some money due.
So there is an option there, but what you're saying is everybody should be now getting emergency contact stuff during.
Well,
their
yeah, it's
lease.
not necessary. I mean, it's just it's worth putting it out there to get some sort of contact
Yeah.
information.
Well,
for
I was
the
just
law.
looking through our lease, and we don't ask for that information, so that may be something to bring up to
Correct.
Laura and Bill. is,
Well,
you know.
Jackie, you learn something every day
I
on your own
know.
show.
I know.
There you
Look
go.
at that. See, that's why I bring smart people in. So, any other updates that you had? That
No,
you
I
wanted
don't
to go
really
over
have too many more
specifically?
updates except for you know I think there's been some updates as far as the anti-lockout statute again. Some
What's that?
there's the anti-lockout statute is really the provision against self-help for a landlord, and I think it's really important to understand that this is serious business. You really need to go through the court system if you've got a problem with a tenant, whether it be for behavioral issues or whether it's typically for lack of paying the rental due. And there's 7 things that you cannot do. I mean, you cannot use threat or force. You can't remove or retain property. You can't change the locks. You can't board it up. Remove locks or windows. I always liked introduction of noise, odor, or other nuisance. You can't introduce any of that. Or even causing an action or omission of or termination or interruption of any sort of service that, say, the
Water.
Yeah,
water,
water.
cable,
Internet.
any of those kinds of things,
Mhm.
just to kind of push a tenant out or to do those sorts of things. And a couple of cases have come down that said even as much as just changing the locks and the amount, the property that's left in the house, hoping to hold on to it, maybe to take that as part of your rental. The courts have been pretty stiff against landlords for that sort of thing.
You mean if somebody walks out on rent
Right. Well, yeah.
and they leave stuff behind, what are you going to do with it?
Well, and that's what you got to be very careful of. Now, if somebody was to abandon their property, that is a defense to retake a property or to use self-help, but it's really, you don't want to run down that line. You're better off getting the court order, sending the court officer in, having everything deemed, whether it be junk, then it can be junked. If the court officer deems it good, they put it out on the curb, and then you can change the locks. It's never a good idea to try to do this stuff on your own. Because I know
They actually take it out and set it outside?
Yeah.
That's insane.
I actually went and I've watched them
There's
before.
not a better remedy than that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know it's something, but
But you see it.
who wants to? I mean, who wants to pay for having this stuff moved? I mean, that's what it is. If somebody's going to wait till the last second and not move, and whatnot. So
Do they forfeit that after a certain period of time?
well, I mean, if it sits out on the curb, the city's not going to allow it to sit there. The municipality is not going to allow it to sit there. It's
Well,
either
what if
gonna
it
jump
sits
or-
in your apartment for a period of 30 days? I mean,
Well, you're not going to allow that to sit in there. I mean,
Okay.
That's why you're going to get your order from the court, and you're going to have your court officer come in there, and whether the court officer is the one who moves it out. Or,
how timely is that with the court?
well, everything with courts is relative to the court, but you know, typically you file your summons and complaint. Depending on which court it is versus how the procedure really works out. I know that Jackson's a little bit different than Lansing, and Hillsdale's different from Jackson as well. And so it could be a couple of weeks before you actually get your case heard, or if it was a default. Once you get your judgment, though, you have a 10-day period that you have to wait for redemption in order to get your writ of restitution, which is your writ of eviction.
Sounds like a pain.
Well, no one ever said that being a landlord is supposed to be a really easy thing. I think there's this perception that it's supposed to be just easy money and you sit there and let money just come in, but it's really not the case.
Well, we've found that with our units, Laura's and Bill's units, they are most successful when they go through their very specific application process, because they're weeding out the people that maybe they'll have trouble with. But they do have a very specific process of here's how people see the apartments, here's what the application is,
But
we check credit, we check everything. You never know, but you know, if you go through that up front.
I don't put much into the credit check thing. I still don't think that there's any correlation really between a credit score and whether or not somebody's necessarily going to pay you rent. I find that one to be kind of, really I think the best thing you can do, and any landlord can do this, you don't need to join groups or learn all this stuff. Just go to d12.com here in town. Look, if somebody's got landlord-tenant actions, they've clearly skipped out on rent or had some sort of issue with a landlord before. It's very simple process, and you know, all court forms are available online. You can get those. You don't need to buy them from someone, but you should be getting advice from getting your advice from a lawyer and not allowing somebody else to do your paperwork for you.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in, Jeff. We've got lots of good information there. So as usual, if anybody's having landlord-tenant problems and want to get a hold of Jeff, do you know your phone number?
That's always that's the first skill a lawyer should know.
Yeah.
It's 782-7090.
Yep. So give us a call. Just a couple of quick listings we've got out there right now. 999 Evanston Drive. Really great house. Great kitchen for anybody that's looking for a fabulous kitchen. Only $75,000. $75,000 for the list price. 5 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. Sorry, and over 2,400 square feet. And it's right over by the airport. It's a great location if you're a commuter. You can jump on the highway right there. 904 West Washington. That is just west of West Avenue. 79.9, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. Just over 1,400 square feet, and 3310 West Morrell Street. I think I talked about this one last week, but it's such a great house. It's huge, over 1,400 square feet plus the basement, 149.9, and that one sits on several acres. I think it's 4 or 5 acres. So give me a call if you're interested in any of these, or if you want to put your house on the market. 780-3800.